Hey everybody, welcome back to Body Bags. It's been quite a while. Just so you know what's going on here, we've decided our podcast, the Graveyard Shit podcast, which you can get the audio of on like Spotify and like Apple Music and all that stuff. We've decided, you know what, when we do one, we'll upload the video here. So feel free to watch it and enjoy. Hopefully. Um, This particular one is a overall coverage of the 1990 Night of the Living Dead remake, which is actually quite a solid movie. Just saying. Okay, so yeah, that's just a quick little intro just to let you know what's going on. So you'll see entries coming up, Graveyard Shit Podcast. It may not say Graveyard Shit that way. It might have like a upside down, like, what's that thing called? Like, not a question mark. Apostrophe? No. Exclamation point for the I or something like that. I don't, you know how it is. But, yeah, hope you enjoy. So, yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Graveyard Shit Podcast. We are here with friend of the show, Lonnie from Terror Tats. And we are covering the one, the only Night of the Living Dead remake.
I feel like I needed it. I forgot to get out my Blu-ray.
This is a movie that, well, we'll get into it when we start talking about the movie. But yeah, you wanna just talk about some new releases and stuff?
Yeah, well, let's get started first. Let's do a little. Well, yeah, I guess let's a couple new releases coming down the pike. Real quick, Glenn, tell us, you saw Nosferatu. What'd you think, real quick?
Nosferatu, perfect film, 10 out of 10. Beautifully shot, phenomenal movie. And if you haven't seen it, if you're sleeping on it, I definitely recommend going to see it. You will not be disappointed. And as I said earlier in this conversation, best use of a naked woman on a horse in a long time.
We've got Christopher Nolan apparently tackling the Odyssey.
That'll be interesting.
That's really intriguing. What else did we talk about earlier? What else is coming down the pike? There is a slasher. That kid from Stranger Things apparently is creative. He is a part of the creative effort to bring a new summer camp slasher. I saw the trailer earlier. I can't tell if it's supposed to be comedic horror or there's just a lot of comedic elements in it, but kind of feels like a throwback to the 80s summer camp. But it's the kid from Stranger Things who's also in Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah,
it's that kid. I can't remember. And I mentioned Robert Eggers going to do a werewolf movie. Next, apparently another period piece because he refuses to do anything modern, which is fine with us, I think.
Yep. Because he's got the balls to do it. He's got the balls to stand up and say, no, I'm not making like the next, teeny bopper horror film. I'm making something.
Yeah. And I love it. We've had some pretty good popcorn movies recently. I mean, I think Romulus, which you just revisited.
Oh yeah.
Is a great popcorn movie, but I think that's the way we want our popcorn movies. Really,
exactly.
Fun, good, fun, and but that also too. I haven't heard anything in a little bit, but that supposedly is greenlit the opportunity for Ridley to finally give us the third piece to that will bridge Covenant to Alien. So that hopefully, and we'll see how that goes.
Oh yeah.
We mentioned Jabez Sadness fame is going to be adapting Crossed. Which apparently is weird, inspired the Sadness. So now we're going to actually see him adapt the original work. Which
I got no problem with that. No problem at all. I mean, I'm just wondering what took him so long to, get another movie going.
And you mentioned, Glenn, earlier, you mentioned Um, Train to Busan getting a sequel.
Oh yeah, that's what I've heard. I mean, like I hadn't heard like what's the word I'm looking for? Like I haven't heard like, oh, it's filming now or like casting or whatever. But I've heard there is talk about another, like a Train to Busan Part 2 sort of thing that would follow the events of the first movie, like right where it ends, apparently. So we'll see if it happens. I hope it does. I mean, Train to Busan is one of the better, it's probably the best zombie movie in the past, I don't know, past couple of decades, really. I mean,
Got a lot of heart.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how you can, you can't really put the sadness as a zombie film, really.
That's more like an infected people kind of movie.
Yeah. So it just,
virus kind of movie,
Yeah.
But that reminds me, talking about things coming down the pike. We've already had a trailer drop for the new 28 Years Later.
Yeah.
And
I'm definitely down. I mean, I like what I saw in that trailer for sure.
Yeah.
It seems I don't know what to make of it though. Like, it feels almost like they're going like pure zombie.
It almost kind of feels like the way it ought to feel.
Yeah.
Being this much time between the last film and this opportunity. We'll see when we get to actually see the film, which I cannot wait. It's one of the great moments early in the summer. Plus, I mean, the way this summer is opening up, man, me and my wife would be seeing Metallica in concert. Can't wait for that.
Nice.
And got 28 Years Later coming out, and just God, it's going to be a great first few weeks. Anything in the theater, anything new coming down the pike, Lonnie, that you're aware of?
Yeah, actually, I need to go back and reread the short story. But have you guys seen the trailer for The Monkey, based on the Stephen King short story?
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for that the other day. I was like, man, I haven't read the story in a long time. I need to go back and reread that. And but Osgood Perkins, Anthony Perkins' son, like this is his follow up to Longlegs.
Yeah.
And I saw the preview for that. That looks like that's going to be really good. I'm interested in that. See, I was telling you guys a little while ago, it's like I heard the rumor about the Wayans brothers is coming back to, bring back Scary Movie again, which, it's like if they do it right, it's like, oh man, we're going to get some good laughs out of it. I think it would be funny, like just my opinion. I think it would be funny if they did kind of like their take on Art the Clown, but kind of do it more like, back from the day with like Homie the Clown.
That would be
I don't think so. Homie don't play that.
That would be we don't play that with like a freaking mace instead of like a sock.
Yeah,
that would be perfect.
Yeah, it's like like way back from like the last thing the Wayans brothers did as far as like horror related was when Marlon did the haunted house movies. So that's been quite a bit of time. So it's like if they wanted to go and do it, like there's plenty of material for them to work with. There's all kinds of things they could spoof and everything else. But
they'd do something like with the witch.
Oh yeah,
they'd have like the goat, and he'd be like talking like ghetto or something.
Yeah. It would be cool if they could bring Anna Faris back. That would be cool if they did that.
That would be cool. I'd go for that for sure.
Let's see, what else was there? Of course, yeah. I mean, we got the new Saw movie coming out this year, and what else was there?
Terrifier 4.
Yeah, I think that's next year.
Yeah, it's gonna be like.
Yeah. Did you guys hear the rumor? Like that one's gonna be because the last one was Christmas. The next one's supposed to be set up at Easter.
Yeah.
The next one's gonna be an Easter movie and all that stuff. So,
I tell you what, if I would be 100% down with them making Terrifier like just like a seasonal slasher film, like like everyone would be a different like not vacation, like holiday, if you will.
Holiday themed, yeah.
Thanksgiving one, like Hell, do a
Valentine's.
Thanksgiving one and cross it over with Thanksgiving just for the hell of it.
Okay, well, you just said it there, Glenn. Any news on the Thanksgiving 2?
From what I've heard, it's filming. I think it's filming now.
Yeah.
So I think it is like actively in production. I don't think I've heard anything about a release date, like an official release date yet. But
And aren't they film?
I can't imagine them like sitting on it.
Have they started filming the new I Know What You Did?
I think they have. I think they have started filming that. That's weird because I don't like it's. I don't know what it is. Like, is it supposed to be a sequel? Is it supposed to be like a remake? Is it supposed to be?
I think it's supposed to be a sequel. I think
a reboot or what? Or like, is it like a requel? Maybe.
maybe we'll have a new word. Maybe we'll have a new word to define this one. And it looks like Scream, the new Scream movie, is going to attempt to wrap up everything finally at last for once and all. Maybe we'll see. As far as things that should be in your mailbox or anything you've gotten recently, I'm excited. By Tuesday, I should have Opera on 4K finally in my collection.
Nice.
Some good Dario Argento. Which that reminds me too, is something else I want to share about Argento I saw in this issue of Fangoria, the movie we're talking about tonight. What's a good example of something new you just got in 4K, Lonnie, that you might have recently reviewed?
Okay, I just got in. I got in 4 movies the other day. I got, funny because we were just talking a little while ago about The Devil's Rejects and how yeah, it's a horror movie, but it's definitely a western. A couple of days ago, I got John Carpenter's Vampires in, and watching it, that movie is so good, and it's like when you watch it. It's like that movie is so much a Western. It is full on and on Western. I remember watching it again. I was like, man, there are shots. You could tell if you've seen your Sergio Leone spaghetti Westerns and stuff like that, there are shots, Carpenter did it to pay loving tribute to Leone. Like there are certain shots, kind of like there's a shot I remember at the beginning where like James Woods is looking at the house and all that stuff. And just kind of and then there's a, kind of like a close-up of Daniel Baldwin, just kind of the way he's looking and all that stuff. It's like you could tell that's a Leone shot, and everything, and just like, oh man, of course, is in it's in New Mexico and all that stuff. It's like, and then especially like they get to the town in the third act and they're walking around the town. You could tell it's like it's a Western. It's definitely a Western scene. Because they're walking around like trying to size up the town, get ready for the final showdown and all that kind of stuff. And it's like,
I don't know how that movie didn't do better than it did because it was so good.
It really was. And then, one thing I remember though too is like, and I remember Carpenter talking about it, the small town where they shot that in New Mexico. I remember that because that town was actually one of the towns they used where they filmed scenes from Young Guns in. And I remember all that, and they said like, like when we went in to shoot in this town, like all the places, like, they advertise it. Like they had like Young Guns memorabilia everywhere. That was kind of like their tourist thing, and all that. Mm-hmm. So like, yeah, we had to go in there. We had to tell everybody, take down all your Young Guns posters and memorabilia and all that kind of stuff so we could shoot there and everything else. But yeah, I got that one in and, there are a couple of moments like it doesn't look that great on 4K, but for the most part, it looks amazing. Movies like, kind of like the Western feel they look great in 4K. Then I also got in the 3 Tarantino movies, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of surprised that actually it's like Jackie Brown actually looks a little bit better on 4K than Kill Bill does. Kill Bill looks great, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my expectations were too high. Because like I'm going to the the end of Kill Bill Volume 1 where they're getting ready to have the showdown in the restaurant. I forget the name of it, but it's like I was kind of like it looks good, but it's like I don't know. It just felt like it seemed like it should have popped more. Like the color should have been more vibrant or something. But like I said, maybe it was just me, but maybe my expectations were too high. But oh man, but I'm definitely looking forward to some stuff. I was telling you guys a little while ago. I saw the picture about the Jason Goes to Hell 4K is supposed to be coming, and Scream Factory's definitely good get money out of me. It's like I got just got Vampires. I got Ghosts of Mars pre-ordered. I got Humanoids from the Deep. What was it? Galaxy of Terror. What was the other one? Let's see. Night of the Creeps. I got that one pre-ordered. So yeah, Scream Factory's gonna make a nice chunk of change off me in the next
How
couple
awesome
months.
would it be if James Cameron, towards the end of his career here, decided to give us a remake of Galaxy of Terror?
Mm.
God,
That would be awesome.
And I can't wait. As like Glenn was talking about, it's like I already pre-ordered Nosferatu on 4K because that's coming out here next month, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's like I was like, oh man, there's going to be an extended cut. All right, I'm down for that. And I looked, I was like, oh, it's only 6 minutes longer. Okay, I'll still take it. I do. It looks amazing and all this stuff, and yeah, of course, I do know a couple of buddies of mine who would be like, I would buy the 4K just to see Lily Rose death in 4K. It'd be worth it for that alone.
Well, yes, especially at the end of the movie.
Is she the one on the horse you were talking about?
No, that's someone else completely.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, at the end, there is a scene, I will say, that's
So,
very
Lonnie,
pleasant to watch.
there's another little piece of 4K I want to bring up here real quick. But Opera, what is the extension on that again? The extended cut?
I don't remember offhand.
Is it 6, 8 minutes, 12 something?
Let me get it real quick so I can see.
No, that's. Let me mention too. I have completely fallen in love with the original Terminator.
I love
Watching it on 4K. It's like, I don't know. I kind of like, I want to feel like this is the way I felt as a kid in the theater in 1984 watching that movie. It is the sound, the talk about colors popping, and and I know Cameron took a lot of grief for using AI and stuff to sort of bring some of that stuff up. But I absolutely love Terminator on 4K, and I so badly want to see Aliens on 4K.
Okay, the director's cut is 11 minutes longer. The theatrical cut runs 96 minutes. The director's cut runs 107 minutes. So 11 minutes longer.
I cannot wait.
That's not unsubstantial. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
I cannot. I'm telling you, I love Opera. It's one of those great slashers. I absolutely love it.
Oh yeah. It's like, you're gonna enjoy when you get this on 4K. I think you're gonna really be really pleased with how good it looks. That's another one.
I always think what would make a really interesting double feature would be Opera and then the Stendhal Syndrome, because they're essentially the same movie. Except one.
I'm not saying it would be great, but it would be interesting. Do a double feature of Opera, then do Dario's Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah. It'd be like,
that's another one. That's another one.
I love it that much. The next one, I want to die.
So, speaking of Night of the Living Dead from 1990 and Fangoria number 97, of course, came across two things I wanted to bring up real quick. Well, the article on Night of the Living Dead is really good as well in here. But in the male section, interesting, Argento's name comes up. From Australia, some Joe from Australia says, and help me with this, because I guess I'm just not that familiar with Red Dragon, but he says the title is Argento a Thief? Am I the only one to realize that the twist ending of Dario Argento's latest thriller, Opera, is a complete ripoff of the climax to Thomas Harris's brilliant 1981 novel Red Dragon? Did Argento think he could snatch the idea just because they didn't use it in the film? version of Red Dragon titled Manhunter. Don't get me wrong, I am one of Argento's biggest fans, but I was stunned to see such a theft. It is too similar to be simply inspired from a director I thought of as an innovator, not an imitator. Joe from Australia. What do you guys think about that?
Well, now that you mention it, yeah, it is. It is very similar. Do I think it was copied? I don't think so. I think maybe it served maybe as an inspiration, but I don't think he'll have been like, oh, I'm gonna take that scene from, the end of Red Dragon and put it in my movie. No, but
Of course, we have to assume that Dario even read the book in the first place.
that's true.
Well,
He may have, there are situations though where stuff like that happens, where somebody, like somebody will write a scene that's similar to another work, and then they could be just totally oblivious to it. They have no idea it even happened.
No, it can, because a perfect example of that is, and of course, mind block here. Ball Break. We know it as
Mutilator.
The Mutilator. So when the Mutilator is being shot down closer to me, actually down this way, what was being shot up north? The Burning.
Yeah.
There was one of the actresses in The Mutilator was just up on the production of The Burning, and there was a scene that they were shooting, and she mentioned, I don't know, producer or the director or someone, she mentioned, wow, this is just like the scene I just was, just saw shot not too long ago, in this movie up, yonder or whatever. And well, that really freaked out the filmmakers enough that they made some phone calls. Mm-hmm. And this is, could you even imagine this happening today? That the filmmakers of The Burning sent them a script so they could see everything in their movie to make sure they weren't, they wanted to make sure they weren't copying anything unnecessary in their movie, because they wanted their movie to stand on its own legs and, but just that collaboration between two separate movies being made, and it was just complete, absolute coincidence.
Yeah.
And sometimes that stuff is just in the air, it's in the water, and it's, they're drinking from probably similar places and not realizing, and they're getting inspired in similar ways, and just so happen they're gifted with taking that inspiration and applying it to a film. And it's just like, the talk when you hear people talk about how similar the little creatures okay. How similar the creatures in the Jawas in Star Wars are to the creatures in Phantasm.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff. Anyways. In the Monster Invasion, you're gonna love this, Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta speak to this, buddy. All right. In the Terror teletype, for those who used to be big fans of always reading Fangoria back in the day. And this is 1990, right? So Terror teletype. After the disappointment of Nightbreed, did that not do good financially when it came out?
Nightbreed was screwed.
Okay. Well, here we go. After the disappointment of Nightbreed, Clive Barker has joined the growing list of genre filmmakers signing up with Universal. His 2-picture deal at the studio will kick off with a new version of The Mummy in collaboration with writer Mick Garris, and will be followed by an untitled science fiction project. The Mummy, to remake along the lines of Cronenberg's The Fly, should shuffle into production next summer. You wear that?
I think I seem to remember something about that. I might be wrong, but I seem to remember hearing something about Clive Barker's idea, and it was going to be something along the lines of, the person would come in, like, find the mummy, and would then decide to get a little frisky with it, and that's what would bring it back to life. Essentially, necrophilia leads to reanimation. I mean, I
So
remember
apparently
hearing that.
the script might have been a little too edgy for the studio. Maybe that's why
I
they dropped it.
I I think so. You know, I don't
Interesting.
I don't even remember where I heard that, but I remember hearing it and thinking like, yeah, that sounds like a Clive Barker idea right there. Yeah.
Isn't that the beauty of picking up an old Fango, getting something like that?
Oh yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
and I want to do this more often. And when we do this, these shows together, I want to, if it just happens to work out. Now the rest of Terror Teletype, I think, works out pretty much the way it is laid out. Music video veteran David Fincher is now set to direct Alien 3.
Yep.
Got that to look forward to.
Oh yeah.
Um, the new monsters will be created by Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff, who did the excellent FX of Tremors. Speaking of sequels to James Cameron films, the director himself is preparing. Get ready, guys. You ready for this? Terminator 2 for a fall
That
start.
would no Terminator 2. That would not
It's
happen.
coming,
People
man.
would
Get
never
ready.
go
It's
for
coming down the
people
freaking
would
pike.
never go for a Terminator sequel. Come
Hey,
on.
look, Schwarzenegger is back apparently. Michael Biehn, Linda Hamilton are all returning. And here is the name. Get ready for this.
Yeah.
Rocker Billy Idol may also join the cast.
Oh. I tell you what, I would have been down for that.
I wonder what role he would have been in. What do you think he would have been? Just one of the
T-
cops, maybe?
He might have been
T-1000,
maybe he might have been the first choice for the T-1000. Maybe.
I could have seen that.
Or one of the cops. I could see him just being one of the cops. Or
Yeah, I said,
Terminator.
I would picture him I would picture them eyeing him to be the first choice for the T-1000.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
You're not gonna. You wait till you hear who's doing the special effects. Stan
Mhm.
Winston's rumored.
Oh wow!
With $60 million budget, nearly 10 times that of the first film. Here's some other good news. John Carpenter finally we mentioned the vampires, right? John Carpenter finally seems to have a new project ready to go.
Oh, there we go.
Memoirs of an Invisible Man, which
Yeah,
he
he did
is
that, didn't he?
I remember
co-scripting from Harry Saint's comic novel. Chevy Chase will star in what is reported to be a heavy FX film. Interesting. You got think that has any hope?
No.
I like Carpenter. I like Carpenter's interview where he was talking about like they first approached him and said, here's the thing, Chevy Chase, bought the rights to this story, Memoirs of the Invisible Man, and he wants to make that as a movie. He wants you to direct it. And Carpenter originally is like, oh my God, Chevy Chase is the Invisible Man. It's like, if we do this right, we could make comedy gold. This could be right up there with movies like, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein or Young Frankenstein or something like that. He's like, yeah, it's like, there's so much we could do with this. He's like, yeah, sign me up and everything. So he's like, he took the gig and he's already signed on as director. And he's like, I had my first meeting with Chevy Chase. He comes in and like the first thing Chevy Chase says is, okay, you know what? There's going to be no humor in this movie. I want to do it dramatic. I want to play it straight. Carpenter was like, oh shit. He's like, I'm already signed on now. There's nothing I can do about it and everything else. So, and then he's like, and so like he was talking about like I had to try to do some rewrite work, trying to get in more like references to the Universal movies and all that kind of stuff, and try to put a little humor into it and everything. He said then me and William Goldman got into it and all that because William Goldman's one of those screenwriters. He can't stand when people rewrite any of his screenplays or do any kind of adjustments and all that. So he was like, yeah, Memoirs is probably one of the worst situations. He's like, I'll never do a fucking comedy ever again. He's like, to me, comedies are the worst movies to make. So, and Carpenter kept to his word. He never did another comedy. So,
yeah. Now here's a little bit of Terror Teletype. I don't think actually came to fruition. Paul Verhoeven's follow-up to Total Recall may be a supernatural adventure called Warrior, which he was working on with writer Gary Goldman before the two became involved with Recall. Carlco will produce. The company is also involved with Terminator 2 and science fiction horror project called Dead Reckoning, starring Sylvester Stallone and directed by German genre meister Roland Emmerich. Yeah, I'm not sure what I think about his career from that point forward. But to wrap up, well, first of all, did Warrior ever happen? Does that seem to ring a bell?
I don't know. I'm going to take a look right now, actually, and just see.
Because I was going to say it right after Total Recall, didn't Verhoeven? That's when he did Basic Instinct, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
I think that was the next movie he ended up doing was Basic Instinct after Total Recall.
Feature films. Here we go. Come on.
Then, of course, we can't forget the immortal classic Showgirls.
Oh, of course. Yeah, he did Total Recall. Yeah, then Basic Instinct, then Showgirls, then Starship Troopers,
Well,
then Hollow
all right.
Man.
Oh.
And I will say, Hollow Man is a damn good movie.
Isn't that the one with Kevin Bacon?
Basically, it's The Invisible Man, but with what's his name? Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Genuinely a good movie, honestly.
Wrapping up the Terror Teletype, since the horror show, one of my favorites, close near and dear to my hearts. Dude, when I rented that as a kid, man, it was the horror show. There was no connection to the House franchise, none of all that. It was just Max the Cleaver. What that was?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Who was the actor in that? I always forget his name.
Brian James.
Yeah, that electric chair scene, man, is one of the best.
Oh yeah.
When he comes out of that chair, man, that's good stuff. Since the horror show is released overseas as House 3, a House 4 has been announced. It will supposedly be a direct sequel to the first House. So I guess for us, this becomes House 2, the second story.
What was it? I don't know.
While this gets sorted out, original House producer Sean Cunningham is preparing his next project as director, entitled The Gypsy Curse. Tim Curry has joined the cast of the miniseries It, playing what else? The villain. Art Nixon's company provides the FX, and that wraps up your Terror Teletype for issue number 97 of Fangoria. By the way,
the second
little
story.
Piece on the FX for hardware versus the MPAA.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
House 2, the second story, was actually 1987. So
what ends up being House 4 then?
I think is just House 4.
Yeah, it was that one that kind of really, I don't think too many people really saw it. You know, William Cat came black. He came back and played the same character he played in the first one, but yeah, a lot of people don't really remember that movie too much. You know, you got to have like a box set with all 4 movies to really,
I think we need to begin a new tradition of bring out Terror Teletype.
Yeah.
And one last thing, I almost totally forgot. So VHS seems to be, or at least wants to be, the new vinyl. On the back end, now, you always just figure in your mind that by 1990, price of videotapes are finally coming down and we're all buying them. I don't know. I think we just have a really distorted memory of when these things became really super popular. And it probably was a really short, small window that we were actually buying these things up. But if you look here, Henry is getting released on VHS, and the price is only $79. Was that 98? $79.98 for your copy of Henry. Which, of course, we talked about this earlier. Siskel and Ebert, 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
For Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, starring. Hey, great segue into the movie we need to start talking about. Tommy Towles.
Yeah.
And Bill Moseley, who they worked together, of course. House of a Thousand Corpses. Rob Zombie, who we talked about earlier. So, and what's weird about this just got freaking a new release on VHS coming down the pike. So there you
I
go.
love the VHS resurgence. You know,
It's our vinyl, man. It's our new vinyl.
yeah. Do I think it's gonna like ever be anything more than like a niche thing? Probably not. I don't think it's gonna be like the new vinyl. You know, but I think
The problem is with VHS, not everyone still has a VCR in their house. With albums, everyone still had a record player.
yeah. And I mean, let's be honest. Like with vinyl, you can argue vinyl sounds better. I honestly believe vinyl sounds better. There is a difference in sound. Objectively speaking, VHS looks worse than like DVD, Blu-ray, or 4K.
No, you're absolutely right, and
You know.
proof of that. And I hate it because I love VHS and I love walking down memory lane. But anytime I throw a VHS tape in upstairs now, my wife comes home. As soon as she comes into the passing through the living room, she looks up at the TV and she goes, "Oh, you're watching, and you put on the VHS tape, I see." And my wife is no transfer snob or anything like that, but she does know the difference between VHS tape and 4K. I can tell you that.
Oh yeah.
Because she reminds me every time I have a VHS tape in that thing. So it makes me wonder, though. I don't know how much it's going to be, but I would love to get that Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, the new VHS release. I wonder how that would look, how a VHS tape manufactured today looks when it goes into the machine versus, I mean, it's got to look, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I know I have one like new VHS. It was, what was it called? The Basement. It came with a VHS release, came with a DVD, and like had video violence in it as well. It looked like a VHS. I mean, the problem is it is a very like it is what it is. Unlike DVD, which you can like upscale and everything, VHS is very much, it is what it is. It's never going to be anything more, unfortunately. But that doesn't change the fact, though, that some VHS still looks really good.
Well, my Nightmare on Elm Street widescreen or letterboxed, I can't remember which one it is. I think it's letterboxed. And my Thing widescreen, both of them look pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say my Anchor Bay release of Army of Darkness looks better than the Blu-ray I have.
Wow.
Well, I mean, in the sense of the colors, the color scheme, the template is the color palette is a little more toned down the way I like it. The blue I have might be the Screwhead edition.
Oh yeah,
it's too bright and vibrant. It's too much. When the blood comes up out of the thing, it's just like bright orange or something. It's like watching Scream Factory's transfer of the Thing. I would rather watch Arrow, but. Why do you have Scream Factory? Well, you have it because Dean Cundy's commentary track's on there. And there is so many great extras on that Scream Factory, including the TV cut. Which is fun.
Yeah.
So anyways, we ready we segued in from Tommy Cowell's Henry to the film at hand. Lonnie, this is your idea. Why'd you yeah, so what is that your umbrella too?
Yeah, mine. I'm just using the alternate cover art because I can.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I still got the old DVD on my shelf. I can't remember who put that out, but I definitely jumped on the umbrella when this first.
And I mean, honestly, the umbrella is a really nice addition. I mean,
tell you what, how about I'm going to read the synopsis for it real quick.
Okay.
And then Lonnie, you can just tell us why you picked this, and just let you go as far as you want to go. A cunning I like some of the word uses here. A cunning remake of George A. Romero's black and white zombie classic Night of the Living Dead is a taut and terrifying return to the macabre scene of mayhem and dismemberment, where the recently deceased begin rising from the grave as flesh-hungry zombies. Fleeing from the legion of limping undead, a small group of survivors comprised of Barbara, Ben, and Harry hold up in a remote farmhouse and prepare for a bloody onslaught. As the marauding zombies surround the house, tensions between the survivors flare up, desperate to do anything to survive the hideous battle that is before them. Directed with flair and gusto by leading horror Tom Savini, who had provided the makeup effects for Romero's original Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead cuts to the chase and sets the splatter count high, we can talk about that, leaving behind a grisly trail of blood and guts like any good zombie movie should. Compliments of the Umbrella release. So, Lonnie, this is your pick, your idea. Why'd you want to do it?
Okay. Well, the reason, right around the time when, you first asked me if I wanted to join in on this, like the real hot topic at the moment was that Tom Savini made the announcement that there was going to be like a new 4K restoration of the movie, and that there was going to be a director's cut with new elements added in, gore that was excised from the original print and everything else, and that was kind of a big thing to talk about at the moment. And it just seemed like a really good idea. It's like, wow, hey, that's kind of like the flavor of the minute. Let's, discuss that. And this is all three of us like, we've enjoyed it. It's definitely one of the best remakes. And there's so many things you can talk to about this. You can talk about the original, and, you could talk about this version, and just so many things about it are fascinating. Like it kind of almost seemed like destiny that, like if you go back, you read your Fangorias, or you listen to any of the bonus features or whatever else, it seemed interesting that, like, way back when Romero was doing the TV show Tales from the Dark Side, he was, giving all the people who worked on his crew, he was giving them chances to direct. John Harrison, who did music scores for his movies like Creepshow and Day of the Dead, he gave him the opportunity to direct. He gave his DP, Michael Warnick, chances to direct, and he gave Tom Savini chances to direct episodes and all that stuff. And I thought it was kind of interesting that Romero, being the great guy that he was, that he wanted to go ahead and like step back and start letting, his other team start, directing some movies. Cause like it started with Creepshow 2, I think, where, originally they were talking about, well, Romero should come back, and he directed the first Creepshow, have him come back, direct the other one. And then Romero wrote the script, Stephen King wrote the stories and all that. But, he's like, you know what? I'm going to try to work on some. I think he was doing Monkey Shines at the time. He's like, I'm going to concentrate more on this. And I want to give an opportunity to one of my friends, one of my workers, to let them do it. And originally the first choice was Savini. And for whatever reason, I don't know why it didn't happen, but Savini had to pass on it. And Michael Gornick took the reins on that when he directed Creepshow 2. And then a little bit later, they were going to do Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, and, they wrote the scripts and all that kind of stuff. And the very first one Romero sought out was Savini. And again, Savini could not do it. So then he's like, goes to his composer, John Harrison. He took the reins on that one. And then it just seems amazing that it's like, okay, here comes the chance, like the stars aligned, like here's the chance we're going to remake Night of the Living Dead for a number of reasons. Of course, at first it was, Romero and Russ Streiner, John Russo, like all the people who did the original movie, they got screwed out of, the royalties they should have made on that movie. And the movie went into the public domain. And so for many, many years, they couldn't make any money off of it. And so, the opportunity came up. It's like, well, a way you guys could make money off of Night of the Living Dead is go do a remake of it. So they go, so they figured that's one of the main reasons. But also, too, it was also impressive that, like, it was such a great thing that the people who they were like the remake was going to get done no matter what. Like they knew the time was coming, it was going to get remade, and they were like, well, why don't we just do it because we made the original, and you know, like if you're going to do and that's my theory about remakes is if you're going to do a remake, if you can't get the original people to come back and do it, get people who are fans of it and love it, and they're doing it because they want to do it. Because you could easily tell, like a lot of the worst remakes, you can always see is like it's done by people who like they don't give a damn about the original movie. They don't care. It's a paycheck. It's just we've seen it happen before. I mean, sorry, Glenn, I know you love the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, but it's like when you watch like the interviews and all that kind of stuff, like the exception of Jackie Earle Haley, everybody that worked on that movie could not give a damn about Nightmare on Elm Street. They did not care. They put no effort into it whatsoever. It's like that Rooney Mara in her interviews, she always talked about she's like, yeah, I didn't even try. And it's like, yeah, we could tell by your acting, we could tell you didn't try. And it's like the funny thing is, it's like that movie, the one thing everybody should have hated, Jackie Earle Haley's Freddy Krueger, is actually the best thing about that movie. He's actually compelling to watch in that movie. He does do a good Krueger, But then you see like other remakes, you see like like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You watch the behind the scenes, like everybody that did that 2003 remake, everybody on there loved the original movie, or they at least respected it and wanted to honor it and stuff like that. And so that's one of the reasons why this movie is so good and it works, is because not just because it's the original people, but people who love that movie and wanted to do it justice and things like that. And then also too, because remember the story about Tom Savini originally went to George Romero and tried to see if he could get the job to do the makeup effects for the original movie, but supposedly he got drafted into Vietnam, so he had to go, so he wasn't able to work on it. And that was a great idea that like he could finally be a part of Night of the Living Dead. And not only that, he took the reins, and Romero just say, here you go, it's your movie now, man. And Savini did a great job, even though Savini would later say that, I know that, George left me to my own devices and everything else, but man, there were times I really wish he would have been on set. There were times I really could have used his help and stuff like that, but George didn't want to step on my toes and everything else. It's a really good movie, and the acting in it is so good. I mean, the late great Tony Todd. I mean, even in like some of it, the other day I watched it was like a really, really low budget version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and Tony Todd played the character. God damn, that man was so good. Even for this no budget movie shot on digital and stuff like that, it's like, oh, Tony Todd was such a good actor.
Anything Tony Todd was in, automatically, just by him being there, goes up 2 points. So whatever rating you were going to give it, you give it 2 more points just because Tony Todd's in it.
And that story is a little interesting, when he, because he wasn't the first choice. I mean, you had a young Lawrence Fishburne, I think there was someone else there, but Tony shows up, and man, he's got all the dialogue memorized already, man. He's just crying on the spot, and it was just so, and it was funny because the way Tom tells the story, it was almost kind of like he didn't even want to give him the time of day. It was at the end of the day. He was tired. He just wanted to go home, and he's like, all right, whatever, get in here and do it. And he's like, a few minutes in, he's like, we got our guy, let's go. let's do this.
And of course, Tony Todd was friends with the guy from the original, Dwayne, whatever his name was.
Jones?
Yeah.
Dwayne Jones, yeah. They were quite friendly with each other. So, I think it was important for Tony Todd to take that role. I think he felt, this is going to happen. I need to be the one to do it.
How cool would it have been if we had ever gotten a movie where, you had like Tony Todd and Dwayne Jones in the same movie?
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Like they could have been fighting zombies or whatever, but it's like, think about how cool that would have been to see a movie with both Bens in it. It's like Man,
Oh, yeah.
and both of them were. That bugs the hell out of me is that Dwayne Jones did not go on to be a bigger actor. No, I
Yeah.
think he did maybe what, like 3 movies, I think, altogether.
Something like that, yeah. Like a very small filmography.
It's like that bugs the hell out of me because like Ken Foree, we all know and love Ken Foree. Dawn of the Dead, boy, he went on. It's like,
Mhm.
how could you not love Ken Foree? And then Terry Alexander, that's another one kind of pisses me off. Like he seemed like he should have broke out bigger too. I mean, he's been here and there. I mean, like he had a little bit at the beginning of the horror show and stuff, but Terry Alexander seemed like he should have done better too. But yeah, that just bugs me. It's like, Dwayne Jones, like, I mean, you watch Night of the Living Dead, he is so good in that movie. It's like, how did they not hire this man to do more movies?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, and the thing is, let's be honest, when you watch the original Night of the Living Dead, you believe right from the beginning, that, Dwayne Jones' character, like, this is a good guy, you never have any, like, thoughts. How can I put it? He feels like a genuine character. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, a lot of actors, for example, would take a role like that and it would just be another role to them. But you feel that Dwayne Jones' performance was like a real character. And you feel the same with Tony Todd's,
Yeah.
Portrayal of the character. It's almost one of those things like, when you hear people talk and they say, Robert Englund will always be Freddy. Up until the remake, Ben was always Dwayne Jones, and you couldn't imagine anyone else.
Yeah.
But then Tony Todd took the reins, and it was like, it's not Dwayne Jones, but the same level of realness was there.
So I don't, one thing to say on top of that in terms of, well, perfect segue, because I think, I've been thinking the same thing about Tom Savini. I mean, here's a guy who, for all intents and purposes, I mean, kind of hit it out of the park with this remake. I mean, might not have been received as well as it should have been initially. But now looking back, especially looking back and considering all of the, troubles that he had to put up with the producers and not having George on set to help protect him from some of that mess. Yeah. It just seems pretty amazing to me that Tom has not gotten a better shake as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
When I think he proved beyond a shadow of a doubt, whatever his original feelings for Night were when it was done and over with, and he was happy to move on to other things. For me, a great heartache is him, whatever happened to Nightmare City remake that he, was attached to direct. And, that could have been something really, really great. It's just like, where has he been? Why hasn't he gotten a legitimate shot to direct? And I know he's attached to something right now that hopefully will get off the ground and get, but as a filmmaker, he's not too shabby for a director.
No.
Oh.
But he really hasn't had.
There's a certain thing as well, I find, when someone who was in effects goes on to direct a movie, they tend to do, like, make good movies. I think it's something because they know what's going on like the technical side,
Well, yeah, especially from a special effects point of view in how those are going to be filmed.
Mm-hmm.
You think of, well, I know Rob had more help from Dean Cundy, but I'm just thinking about The Thing and all the effects and the lighting and how that was all going to be shot. But I mean, let's try to off the top of our head real quick. I mean, the first one that comes to my mind is Chris Wallace, getting to step up from The Fly and doing The Fly 2 as a director.
Mhm.
And then you got what's his name there doing the effects for Alligator or the Killer Crocodile,
Mhm.
getting to direct the sequel. Um,
Yeah.
who else? I mean, did Stan Winston? He
Stan
directed.
Winston.
Stan Winston.
Yeah, how is it Stan Winston after Pumpkinhead? And that's a
I
beloved
know.
horror film and stuff. I think he maybe did like one other movie.
Yeah.
I think so.
Gino
Yeah.
Gino De Rossi is what I'm thinking about for Killer Crocodile. He got to step
Yeah.
up and do the sequel, which had what's his name kid in it as the star in both of them. Our Colonel from Rambo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his son is the main star in the Killer Crocodile movies. Heck was his name. Anyways, you got Stan Winston. Who else stepped up into the direct?
Did Rick Baker ever?
John Carl Buechler. He did some.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
Beekler, Friday the 13th Part 7, man. That's my comfort food right there, man. That's my go-to. Freaking love me some Beekler, man.
Direct Troll? Trying to remember, didn't Buechler direct Troll?
No. Did he? I think he
Maybe he just did the creature effects on it.
Yeah. But I think one of the great Friday moments in the entire franchise, man, is his work on Jason and how he looked. It was phenomenal, man. He might be one of the better looking Jasons in the entire franchise.
Look at Greg Nicotero. Now Nicotero is a director. Like he directed how many episodes of The Walking Dead? Then he's the one who brought Creepshow to TV, and he directed a lot of episodes of that and everything else. Was like, Nicotero was like, I don't think he's really done much movies, but as far as television goes, like, Nicotero is killing it as director now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Didn't he give us the final Walking Dead episode?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he closed out that thing.
Robert Kurtzman tried to get out and get into directing, and what was that one? Wishmaster. Kurtzman directed Wishmaster.
Oh yeah.
That was the thing. Originally, like, Kurtzman hired Quentin Tarantino to write From Dusk Till Dawn so that Kurtzman could direct it. All that stuff. So yeah. Oh, well, look at now you got Damien Leone, because Damien Leone started off as a special effects creator and everything else, and then so he started doing like the Terrifier movies and everything else. Mostly he did those as like as a way to showcase his special effects work and everything. But now you got Damien Leone's a big
and I know this isn't quite the same thing, but I mean, look at just a career like James Cameron working on the on the technical aspects of, say, Galaxy of Terror, and look at the career that's spawned with him, and quite amazing. Who's I'm curious, who's Rob's right hand man on special effects? I always forget his name.
Wayne Toth.
Yeah, Toth. Yeah. He's got a long history going back. I think he was on was Star Trek 6 Undiscovered Country. He did a lot of stuff back in the day. I'd like to see him maybe take it. That's even something he'd want to do. But as far as okay, so you like
Wayne Toth, right?
Wayne Toth.
Yeah. He's been doing acting, so. I don't know whether he's been doing any directing, but he's been doing acting, so.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is.
Makeup department, additional crew, actor, soundtrack. Yeah, it hasn't done any directing, it doesn't look like, but it's been doing some acting and stuff.
Well, look, I mean, even when you just think of K&B, how much K&B impacted our lives as young teenagers, and the whole horror boom of the 80s, and practical effects at the forefront. And then again, we've just mentioned some of these guys coming out of there and hitting it. As far as the movie itself, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, the film Night of the Living Dead is it is the original film, just
It is.
but with some interesting changes to the characters. Mainly Barbara's the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the question: what are your thoughts on the change to her character?
I love it.
So
I
do
did.
I. Like for me, it makes more sense. I get the whole, being so scared by what's going on, you go kind of catatonic. I I get that, from the original, but it. How can I put it? In the original, it seemed to go too far. Like she's catatonic, then she starts talking and starts talking like gibberish, and then she just lets the zombies in.
Well, the thing is, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the way that they handle Barbara in the remake, but that's kind of the thing is like a lot of the time people talk about like, well, Romero said that like he kind of caused some backlash about the way he handled the female characters in Night of the Living Dead. So that's why, like in Dawn of the Dead, and moving on, he made the female characters stronger. Which I mean, don't get me wrong, that's fine, that's great. I know that like a lot of people, it irked the hell out of me. I was watching a reaction video the other day, and they were watching the original Dawn of the Dead, and it's like, unfortunately, it's like the way things are now. It's like the person doing the reaction was sitting there like talking about, oh, Dawn of the Dead is a piece of shit and everything else because Fran isn't just this kick-ass girl boss from the first frame all the way to the end of the movie. It's all like it's like here's the problem though, is like if you think about it, in the original Dawn of the Dead, okay, you got Fran and you got Steven. These are two just civilian people. Okay, they don't handle guns. They're not military. Whereas you got Peter and Roger, they're SWAT team. They're trained. They know how to handle guns and all this kind of stuff. So that's the thing. The characters of Steven and Fran had to evolve from just being civilians into being zombie fighters and stuff like that.
Exactly.
It's like
Which
they're like, but she's not a girl boss from the first fucking frame. Oh, god damn it, come on. And of course Sarah in Day of the Dead, she's amazing. But the thing is like, Romero's like, yeah, I really felt bad for the way I handled the female characters in Night of the Living Dead. Even though they were not like super strong or going around, blasting down zombies with guns, I never hated the female characters in the original movie. I never thought of them as crappy or weak or any of that kind of stuff. Because I mean, I get what Glenn is saying about, Barbara. Like the majority of the movie, she's catatonic and just kind of like lost in space and all that kind of stuff. But it's like to me that was like a cool moment when the zombies are coming in at the end of the movie and Barbara, she snaps out of it, she grabs the board, she goes up there, she's trying to fight them off, and it's like, she, to me, it's like Barbara kind of goes out a hero. It's like, there's just too many of them, and and it's like the character of Helen Cooper, it's like I was kind of on her. I mean, let's all face it. I mean, Harry Cooper is probably one of the most hated movie characters in movie history. Nobody likes, even though he's right, nobody likes this guy. But you got Helen Cooper, the whole time she's like getting on his ass and everything. Like, he's all like, she's like, well, why don't you get up and help somebody? Why don't you do something? And all this stuff. Then when Ben comes in, brings in the TV, they start arguing. She's like, hey, is there anything I can do to help? I mean, at least she's trying. Judy, it's like, okay, it's like, you're kind of like, all right, Judy, not much, but it's like, you got to admire a woman who stands by her man. It's like she goes out, gets in the truck, and everything. She wants to be with him. She wants to be by his side. It's like, okay, it didn't work out very well. We know that, but it's like,
she was still at his side. They were just mixed giblets. It's fine.
How about the scene? I rewatched this the other day. How about the scene where talk about Harry? Harry, it's Harry, right? Harry Cooper.
Yeah.
That scene when Ben first comes down into the basement because he's coming down to get the doors that are down there, and he sees the daughter for the first time laying on the makeshift table with door. There's two parts of that scene that I really like. when Ben says to Harry, or maybe he's talking to his wife, he's like, there's some blankets upstairs. You probably ought to really put a blanket. And man, what does Harry do? He just takes his coat off. Man, it's like, I don't want anything from you. What was the other? And I love it when it just seems like for a moment maybe Ben is sort of looking at the door that could be used, and
Yeah.
Harry's like,
That's
"Oh,
what
you
I
want to take that
thought.
one too?" It's like Ben's just like caught. It's like the one moment where you kind of think maybe for a second, okay, yeah, Ben's not the nicest person in the world, maybe perhaps, but but they're all dealing, so like I was just thinking we were talking about um God, Barbara, talking about Barbara, um talking about just her in the original, her character in the original. I love the moment there, and there's great things you can do with this if it's done really good, but you think of that moment of the one girl from Zombie Man when the zombie just is towering over her and she's in just such a state of shock and fear and terror, and all she can do is stand there. I mean, what's some moron gonna do? Look at it and go, "What are you just standing there? Just let the zombie." Well, if you were you, that suddenly it's actually, I really appreciate the opening of the Dawn of the Dead remake. It really does a pretty good job of sort of opening up Pandora's box of the apocalypse. You go from very, slowly, quietly in, and they're in bed sleeping, and then slowly but surely things are happening, even as they sleep comfortably in bed. And the minute they're finally woke up into this, world of hell, I mean, you never know how people are going to act.
Yeah.
No.
And, and ultimately in the end, I mean, Barbara, God, how good she's in the original film. She's ultimately dragged away by the zombies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and there's something terrifying to think about a person who's already terrified from the situation they're in, and then ultimately they can't escape out of that fear ultimately, and it drags them off. I mean, there's something really primal or terrifying about that,
And then she's being drug off by her brother of all people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very, very terrifying. There is something really, really, really scary in Tom's movie. I think, re-looking at it again, as it's funny. The movie seems, every time I watch it, it just seems to grow more and more on me. I think I really enjoy it as a remake, or just as its own film. There are things that that are happening in there that are really intriguing. Like you notice the name on the house, that is the farmhouse. You notice the name up on by the door.
Yeah.
It is M. Celeste, the Mary Celeste,
Mary
the
Celeste,
abandoned ship out in the. But there's an even better Easter egg, which Tom does it. He speaks to the Mary Celeste, but he doesn't speak to the other one that, and maybe it's just an accident. Maybe there's no main point, although it's hard to think. Well, they did use someone's farmhouse. They did use someone's house.
Yeah.
So if they didn't go in and just clean the whole thing out and reset it the way they wanted to, it could be just complete accident. But there is a picture in a frame. I think when Harry, I think it's Harry or Ben, they're standing by the wall. There's a portrait of a ship. Naval ship.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's the Eldridge, the USS Eldridge, which was part of the Philadelphia experiment.
Oh.
Which begs the question: is the events of the dead walking a result of the Philadelphia experiment? Their attempt to create wasn't it to create a cloaking device for a ship so people couldn't
Yeah, something like
And
that.
they may have, it's sort of legendary, they might have opened something they weren't supposed to inadvertently. That's an interesting thought, that maybe some of this world gone to hell in a handbasket is somewhat born out of a military experiment, which really doesn't get any real talk at all. It just happens to be a portrait of a ship on the wall, and some have kind of read into it like, because generally speaking, most of the time, everything in filmmaking has an expressed point,
Yeah.
intention, But I mean, you go back to, they're just getting someone's house to, I guess you can't expect that they're going to go. Now, it's funny because remember the shot back where you see the naked zombie lady heading towards, that's the owner of the house.
Huh.
That's part of the deal. They gave her a place in the movie to let her to use the house.
I love it. Like, I want to partner. Okay, I'll take off all your clothes and go out in the field.
I wasn't even thinking about it. I think about movies like this, and in my mind, I think, this is an absolutely clean movie, and I just don't think about some of the shots. And Max, second grade, he comes wandering down, and I'm watching it, and all of a sudden I realized he walked in the room and is like, "What? She's naked!" And it's like I was like confused between like, what? And then I looked at the script, like, there's no naked ladies, and I'm like, Max, that's a zombie. I guess technically the woman's naked, but it's a zombie.
It's a corpse. Don't worry about it.
Definitely reminds you of that meme you always see on Facebook. Like the two pictures. The ones like, like when you're watching the movie, like Reanimator, like you're watching the movie alone, you got the picture of like Jeffrey Combs with the zombie head and the syringe, and there's like when it was like when people walk in, it's the part where the head gives head.
Yeah.
It's always like that. It always seems like, it does feel that way, doesn't it? When you're watching the movie, that's fine. But it's like when the dirty, raunchy, nude scenes or sex scenes or whatever come up, that's when people somehow just magically enter the room and they're like, what are you watching?
So what do you guys make out of Tom says there's absolutely nothing to it, but whenever I rewatch it now, it's harder for me to think there wasn't some sort of intent purpose to it. What do you think at the end when we're in the end final moments and we're out there and the helicopter hovers over? There's just this weird thought that it's our characters from Dawn of the Dead flying over. It almost looks like the same helicopter, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The funny part, I'm sure you guys already noticed this, but when you watch the Dawn of the Dead remake, it's when she gets away, she's in the car, then you see that there's that shot, you see the helicopter, and it is the helicopter from the original Dawn of the Dead, and then you see the truck coming in and it crashes into the car and blows up the gas station. That's the story that Ben tells in the original Night of the Living Dead. Talking about the car, the truck hitting the car, going the gas pump, and it explodes, and everything else. I thought that was a neat little thing.
It's like, I never thought about that.
Yeah, you see, it's like the helicopter in the Dawn of the Dead remake. You can see it's designed exactly like the helicopter from the original. And you see that stuff where the semi is like hitting the car, going at the gas pump, and blowing up. It's like that's the story that Ben is telling in the original Night of the Living Dead. I thought that was a cool little thing that Zack Snyder did. I don't know if it was Zack Snyder, James Gunn, or it was a combination of the two, but they decided to add that in there. I thought that was a pretty cool thing that they put in there.
That is very. I didn't know that. That's totally new to me.
It took me a couple of watches before I figured that. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, so that's
and shame on us for not automatically, taking, say, a film like the Dawn remake and put it side by side with the original film just to see what inspiration or carryovers from, I think, for the Dawn remake, I think the most regretful thing of that entire movie is just the notion that you had that beautiful island scene at the end that will never get anything else, and that for me, that's one of the best moments in the entire movie, and it's just so short, and it's just like, because right there, man, I almost have zombie vibes. You're about to take me into a new world. This is the world that is being, shaped by these events, and you only
Yeah.
get like a minor taste, and that's,
Yeah, and that's
fortunate.
like another thing though too is like you go look at Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, and people love that movie. I mean, some people like it more than the original. I don't get that, but people love the Dawn of the Dead remake. But it's like, here's the thing, Zack Snyder, James Gunn, like these guys, they're fans of that movie, and they wanted to do that movie justice. It's like that's why the movie ended up so good.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the thing. Is like that's why a lot of times remakes don't work. It's like though the
So do
people
you
make
think
don't give a damn
the
about it.
relationship between Ben and Harry is, it almost seems from the very moment in the remake the two share words, it just, their end is faded in a very, very clear way, because it just feels like their inability to work with one another, that sort of that self-destructiveness is going to cost both of them in the end.
Oh yeah.
In a weird way too, because the one who doesn't want to go down into the basement ends up in the basement. The one who doesn't want to go up to the attic ends up in the attic.
Yeah.
And which is kind of but that shows you that Tom really thought some of this stuff through, like this, let's play with these things. And it's really, it's kind of heartbreaking when he talks about how the end would have been for him had he been allowed to do it, with that whole shot of the mirror, and when Barbara comes up and Harry's hiding behind the mirror, and when she ultimately shoots him and he falls, it's from the camera perspective of him looking up at Barbara, but what he sees in the mirror is Barbara's distorted image, which foreshadows she's broken apart the minute that she's taken the life of a real person and not a zombie. That's her character has now moved into a new, almost like a Rob Zombie movie kind of. Now you're dealing with a real broken character who is, well, kind of lost much of her own humanity towards.
Yeah.
So, there were a few things he wanted to do that just didn't work out for him, which seemed, right from the beginning, when he shares with how George, when George was able to look at all the storyboards up on the wall, and immediately, what does he say? He says something to the effect of, "Great, man, you got this much of a movie, only this many weeks to shoot it, so yeah, that ain't gonna happen." And it's funny because Tom is like really upset about a lot of it through, but by the end of the documentary, he's kind of like, well, in the end, George was right. he called it the way he saw it.
Yeah.
But George could have really helped had he been on set and not, I know, what was he writing The Dark Half? Because he needed to get that off the ground.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think he was
Either
down in
that, or I
Florida.
think she was finishing Monkey Shines at the time. One of those two.
No, I think he was writing
No,
The Dark
yeah,
Half.
that's right. Monkey Shines was
Yeah.
before. Right, so I
Yeah,
forgot.
writing The Dark Half, because he needed to get that movie off the ground fast, and he didn't have a lot of time, which is why Tom got the gig to do. But the stories with the NPA, and just, I mean, and there was no way he was going to release the movie unrated, so he was going to have to deliver an R. But it's just one of those cases where you look back at it now and you just, I mean, it's just like, Jason is doing his, him and Joe are doing the Video Nasties, and it just, some of those movies, to think that they even got on that list, I mean,
I
it's
know.
just,
I know. It's dumb.
it's, and then you look at Night of the Living Dead, and I mean, I would have no problem letting Max, who's only in second grade, watch that movie with me.
No.
It is light. And had Tom even been able to get the things in there he wanted to get in there, I mean, for the studio to say no just to, them shooting, the backside of a zombie's head coming off as, they shoot him. I mean, just not even to allow that stuff just seems a bit, I mean,
Yeah.
Kind
thing
of
I
take it for
think though is like the thing I think is interesting though is like funny thing is like you listen to Tom's commentary on the movie and stuff like that. The funny thing is like if anybody wanted to hold back, it was Tom Savini himself.
yeah.
Here's the king of splatter and all this other kind of stuff. And he was the one sitting here saying, like, yeah, I really didn't want to go too far with the gore. I wanted to pull back on it.
Yeah.
You know.
And
So
it's funny you say that because what's her name there? John's producer, died of cancer. Help me out.
Deborah Hill.
Deborah Hill.
Deborah
Deborah Hill,
Hill,
I
yeah.
remember, made a comment. Maybe it was on the Halloween commentary where she said, a filmmaker's best. How did she put it? Something to the effect of the best censorship comes from the filmmaker themselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When they themselves are they're their own best censor. When they can restrain themselves, that's what you want,
Yeah.
And Tom, I mean, Tom, I mean, just well, I mean, you mentioned at the beginning with Lonnie with his, and that's why we're going to get a new physical release of it, with a new black and white opening, which then bleeds into color. I mean, simple things like this. Well, it's like even George got screwed when, I think no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about John got screwed when, for The Thing, he wanted to do an old, didn't he want to do an old Universal with the biplane gun? The studio wouldn't let him. But George did get it for Land of the Dead. Funny.
Yeah.
And doesn't that movie begin black and white and bleeds into color?
Yep.
So I wonder if that was George's nod back at Tom for what he wanted to do in The Night.
Possibly.
Didn't even think about that to just now thinking about it. So I don't know. Anything really remarkable stand out from this remake that you just any moments from the film that you really, really just enjoy?
Oh yeah.
I really dig the changing of Ben's death. I like the idea that he'd already turned when he gets killed. The ending of the original is nihilistic as hell. Don't get me wrong, I love a downer ending, but after all of the events of that movie, to then, be right on the cusp of being saved and then bullet through the head. The Ben character deserved better than that. And the way they handled it in the remake, I felt worked really well. And I love the fact that she shot Harry in the head.
Yeah.
And because the character was just an annoying jackass, even though, yeah, he was right and everything, but he deserved the bullet through the head. And he deserved it from her.
Okay, quick question. Is he actually taking the TV down into the basement or is he not?
No. No.
Ben don't believe him.
Yeah.
So why does he pull the TV? The TV had perfect reception up upstairs in the attic. Why does he bring it downstairs then?
I think
is that Harry's way of creating a middle ground?
I think
it just falls on deaf ears.
I think it's Harry's way of going like, hey, Mr. Black Man, the white man's going to tell you what to do. Because I honestly believe, like, had the Ben character been a white guy, there wouldn't have been the tension.
Well, it's that television moment that almost makes Ben more of an ass than Harry.
Sort
At
of.
least for a moment,
Yeah.
a quick moment. Because if Harry's intentions are actually good, he's just bringing it down for everyone to see and not trying to take it down into the basement like Ben just assumes.
Yeah. Then he should,
But then Ben actually, for a moment, is
yeah.
the worser of the two, which is interesting.
It's one of those things Harry's character then should have said, like, right at the beginning, like, I'm bringing this to here so we can all watch.
I mean, like, hey, everybody, check this out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's,
I mean, his exasperation at you can't get reception down in the basement does come out pretty genuine.
Yeah.
But where is the guys? They're talking. Everyone's got to.
Yeah.
He could have diffused the whole thing, maybe.
Just come in, but hey, everybody, check this out. Yo, we got news. Yo, we got some information. Yo, come on,
Exactly.
we need to check this out. That kind of thing.
That would have done it.
I mean, in a way, you kind of can't blame Ben because it does kind of look, Harry does kind of look almost like he is trying to sneak it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, the two of them should have been like, they really should have handled that better. But the problem is,
how about Judy's little response when she's finally had enough and said, "We'll kick all of you out of here, man. This is not even your house."
I love that. I love it.
I think my favorite moment in the entire movie, though, I think two things I absolutely love, man. I love that Tom captured that full moon as much as he did. I think just adds so much, to the film. But I love it when Barbara first goes in that house, man, and the big heavier set corpse is up there and walks literally just walks off and just falls nearly right on top of her. That is such a great moment.
That is.
One thing I admit that I really love is the part of the movie where I thought it was kind of hilarious the way they changed it, when they shoot the gas tank, and it blows up, and like William Butler's character is such a dumbass. He's like, "This is wrong goddamn case." And Tony Tom's like, "Tom, what the hell are you doing?" And all this stuff. I thought it was to me, it was kind of unintentionally funny. But then I love the idea that it's like, because like in the original, like to get back to the house, Ben has the torch, he's fighting everybody off. I love the fact that you get into this fun kick-ass action scene where Tony Todd just like, he's wrestling these motherfuckers. He's like beating them up, he's kicking up karate chops, all that kind of stuff. And everything. And I thought that was kind of a really cool idea that they added that, I mean, I get the intention in the original movie that, Harry just kind of figured, like, Harry has got his mind made up. He wants Ben dead. You're into the end of the movie. It's like, he's literally like, I want to kill this guy,
Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of a cool thing that they added that, like Barbara is there trying to be there for Ben. And then Harry comes up and starts trying to get the gun away from her and all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of like the way they changed some of that around a little bit. Kind of added a little extra layer to it, But
think about Tom's character when he shoots the gas pump. I think there is something to be said, though, that if you were to actually really find yourself in a genuine moment like that, you're going to see more people than you would like to see do really stupid things only because they're acting out of fear.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, because really that moment does build up tension in an interesting way when it begins with Ben falling off the back of the truck. And now Tom is screaming at Judy, "We've lost him. She can't hear. They're pulled up. Everything is just getting cracked. The dead are starting to walk in. Everything is just getting, and all of a sudden, out of just a quick moment of reflex, what does he do? Well, he's got something right here that can blow the lock right off. Me just shoot it off. Boom. Gas. Right. Well, of course, probably isn't that bad if it's not for the torch in the back of the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
you would just end up with gas everywhere and stuff like that. So
wouldn't have been so bad, but it would just happen that her driving, his inadvertent fall out of the back leaves the torch in the back, and that becomes the catalyst for a very, very bad. But I loved Barbara's reaction to seeing it from the window.
Mm.
That facial expression pretty much sums it up. Like, yeah. We're screwed.
Mm.
Yeah.
We're
one thing though that I wonder if Bill Moseley ever thinks about this nowadays. But it's like, I wonder if Bill Moseley's like, man, I really wish I could have had a scene where I played Johnny as a zombie instead of just being the Bill Moseley dummy when she falls in the back of the truck. Bill Moseley would have been like, I would have ate that shit up, man. I would have loved to have that would have been kind of cool if they had a scene where Barbara finds Johnny as a zombie and maybe it plays out a little bit differently. Whereas like Johnny in the original killed Barbara, but now, it's like the tables have turned and Barbara winds up killing Johnny. Like that would have been kind of cool if they'd done something, a little switcheroo on that. That would have been
So what do you guys think of the opening cemetery scene against the original?
I dig it. I mean, let me put it this way. Johnny's death makes a hell of a lot more sense in the remake than in the original. Because in the original, it's like, fall slightly hits his head. You get the feeling he would have been knocked out, not necessarily killed. Where you see it in the remake, it's like, yeah, his ass is dead.
The only problem that I have with the beginning scene, is like, okay, first you see the old guy. Turns out he's just a traumatized man and all that kind of stuff. He's like, I'm sorry, and he walks away and all that stuff. And you're saying, like, Bill Moseley, like, you see, like, he's like, the way he turns is like, there is no fucking way he would not have seen that zombie coming.
No.
It was like weird, it's like the way he turns and everything weird, huh? And then the zombie comes out of nowhere. It's like, how the hell did you not see that? It's like it's right there. It had to be
I do love that old nutty man. I do love the old nutty man, because it just begs, man, what did this guy just go through?
Yeah.
He's got the injury on the head. He's delirious. He's just not there. And you just wonder, man, this guy is seriously traumatized. Like something happened, something really bad happened. And then even Tom's talk about the events as they unfold in that house are pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
His uncle or whoever it was that starts to go after the other one, and that's why he ends up killing himself. And yeah,
I just thought of what Johnny's end in the remake should have been. You remember the scene where Barbara's walking and there's the zombie with the doll?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like just pushing it back and she's like getting like upset and everything. If that had been Johnny, she would have seen it's like it's not her brother anymore. It's just, a meat puppet. But it would explain the crying and everything, and then the pushing back, like I really don't want to do this, but then at the end,
or you know what, you take that moment instead of a woman who is carrying a baby, which really sort of freaks Barbara out. Just the idea, that whole idea. If you have some sort of when they show up to the mom's grave. If he's got something, or she has something that she's going to leave at the grave, whatever that thing is, whatever it is. But he has picked it up, and he's wandering towards the farmhouse, and he's holding it, and he almost has this weird sort of disposition that almost begs regret for what he did in the graveyard. That could have worked out to be a really intriguing scene.
Definitely.
Because, I mean, he does talk about the scene where instead of that one freaky looking guy come through the window, initially it's a zombie that resembles the picture of her mom on the grave.
Yeah.
And she can't bring herself to shoot her.
That would have been cool.
Or is that the one where it does work out, but then they can't use the footage because the girl actually hurt herself?
I don't remember.
There's a scene in there where there's a moment where they actually can't use it because they're, for the legality of it, they're afraid that if the person truly is injured, then they don't want to come back on them. So they decided not to use the footage. So they had to change things. But yeah, I think it is. I think it is supposed to be her mom. And that just, the whole scene fell through because of the accident, because she literally hit the ground way too hard and I think got knocked out for a moment, I think.
No.
Yeah, Tom talks about that, and that, which is a great documentary on there. I love that.
Yeah. What's it called? The Dead Walk, right? Dead Walk feature.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
I think the best part of that though is when he talks about how he at a special screening question whatever answer time, he it was the first time that really seeing it objectively, he had really come around as to, you know what, this is not a bad movie in the end.
Yeah.
It's nice that he's finally gotten back to the point, and maybe that's helped spur this. Hey, let me get a better physical release of this. Let me get a better version of this as much as we can this far late in the game. You're not going to get exactly what I wanted, but it at least is maybe a slightly, like Richard Donner's Superman 2 cut, the Donner cut,
Yeah.
slightly better. Anything we're missing? Anything from this we're missing?
Trying to think.
Some of those scenes at the very end, seems like George sort of capitalizes on some of those scenes in later movies. Like, okay, so like when they got the zombies all around and the guys in there fighting the zombie, you see that expanded on in Land of the Dead.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's almost kind of like George was really, really fond of what Tom did and took some of those ideas and brought them into his, this is Aunt Lonnie. You would, and both of you probably know this better than me. But is there anything in Tom's movie that resurfaces in Survival of the Dead?
Well, definitely the whole like why are we so scared? We could just walk right past them.
Yeah.
There is that.
Huh.
Let's see. Well, there's definitely, yeah, you could definitely sit here and try to make an argument that, oh yeah, definitely, George really borrowed from Tom's movie, like the whole kind of like Hatfield McCoy, war between the two of them is definitely like an extension of like Ben and Harry's, war with each other. You could definitely, try to make an argument for that, and stuff. But not really much more that I could think of,
So I don't know if we actually really answered the question or not, but with that helicopter scene at the end, do we want to believe those are the characters from Dawn Cry? I mean, Tom says it's just an accident. He says it's just a helicopter up there.
I think he just leaves it up. You can make your own interpretation of it.
I love thinking that it is, though. I think it makes all the sense in the world, and I wish it were like, I wish that was what the intention was, because it's a beautiful Easter egg to Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that you've just taken a remake and tied it literally to one of the greatest zombie movies ever with one beautiful little scene.
Yeah, I like to think it is.
And then, because I mean, when you really look at what's happening there, it's easy to imagine a couple hours from then that helicopter is going to be landing on top of them all. So, maybe it was, not intended to be what everyone wants it to be, but maybe Tom is still, so influenced by Dawn and those things working in that it just sort of, oh yeah, I forgot, we got to have a helicopter up here because, cops are going to be, or whatever, they're going to be flying But
Or it could just be simply, it could just be, simplicity in itself. He could have just been like, well, we have the helicopter shots in the original movie, and, it's like, it's written in the script, helicopter flies by, let's just get a helicopter and film it. And, so it could be just nothing more than that. But that's the fun of it, is when I think you saw the balloons. I think I just blew Rob's mind. But no, the fun part though is we get to sit here and talk about it. We get to think about it. It's like, is it, it's like, maybe it was simplicity, but that's the fun. It's like getting to talk about it. But what if, there was always that little thing. What if, it's like, well, technically, it is still in the same universe and all that stuff. So it's like, it's fun to think about.
It does look like the same helicopter from Dawn. I mean, I didn't compare the two, but I mean, just
I think it is.
Thinking about it, it looks like, because it didn't have a blue stripe, light blue stripe, and white.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it did. Just thinking about it, I mean, could be totally different. Who knows? But it just seems like, I don't know. It seems like, I always wondered too. At the end of the day, like whatever happens to those characters on that island, did they just stay on that island for the rest of their life, or did they eventually get in the chopper and fly off again?
Well, remember we kept hearing more and more rumors about there was going to be another movie, and that the three, from Day of the Dead, they were going to come back and play those roles again, but that just never materialized. That there was a follow-up with those characters years later, but just nothing ever happened, But so, I know that George Romero's definitely said, he always wanted to try to connect all the movies together, make kind of a universe out of it. And he said, but just the problem is because the rights go into different distributors and stuff like that, he was never able to pull it off. That's why he had the one actor from Land of the Dead, was it Brubaker, I think his name was. He's like, he had him in this movie, then he had him in Diary of the Dead, where he's like, it's the same guy playing the same character, but then he ended up in Survival of the Dead. And in that movie, they just called him Sarge. And it's like, he really, like, that was the thing, like, Romero definitely wanted to, like, he wanted to bring Ken Foree back. He wanted to bring Galen Ross back. He wanted to bring the characters from Day of the Dead. He really wanted to do it, but unfortunately, because of the rights and everything else, he wasn't able to do it. Like, he's like, I would have loved to have done, he did say that, I would have loved to have done a movie where we could have had Peter and Fran and Sarah and John and Billy and all these characters all come back and all work together in this, almost like an Avengers kind of a thing, have them all in the same movie. And it's heartbreaking that George could never get to do that.
Well, that's, I guess, part of the, you do one in the 60s, one at the latter end of the 70s, the next one doesn't come to the mid-latter of the 80s. So much, in filmmaking, that's a lifetime in between movies.
Yeah.
And it's too bad, because that's probably a lot of what killed Toby too, from being able to do more of what, with his Texas movies, what George was doing with his Dead movies, which we probably ought to be very thankful that George got that huge studio movie, but then got to crank out a couple more independent after the fact. And I don't know, are you guys fans of Diary at all? Because I don't know if I've ever even seen Diary, to be honest.
I like Diary, but the thing is, it was made better, and it was called, like the Zombie Diaries.
I do like it.
It's the same basic idea, just done better.
I do like it. The big difference, though, is, of course, like Romero's big theme in that movie is all about how we become reliant on the internet. And it's like, it's scary how now these days, if somebody is in a dangerous situation, instead of people helping each other, first thing people do is pull out their camera so they can record it and stuff like that, and like, that's a big thing. Like in the movie, is like, you have the main character, like, there are all these situations where everybody is like in peril, the zombies are going to get them and all this kind of stuff. And this guy, instead of dropping the goddamn camera and going helping his friends or his girlfriend or anything, like, the guy just keeps standing there just recording, and that ends up being his downfall. Is that he's so obsessed with getting the image, because if it's not on camera, it doesn't happen. and it's like he ends up being so upset that it ends up getting him killed. You know, but
It's funny.
I do love the funny, humorous part though. Like at the beginning of the movie, where they're making their little movie and all that kind of stuff, and he's like, yeah, you're supposed to come up and rip her shirt and her tits are supposed to pop out, and she's like, why is it? She's like, why is it in every one of these horror movies the woman always has to trip, her shirt gets torn open and her boobs fall out and all this? Then later on in the movie, she's trying to get away from the zombie and the guy's just filming the whole thing and she's like, Jason, put the goddamn camera down and help me. And so what she do? She trips, she gets up, the guy comes up, rips her shirt open, her tits pop out.
Well, it's funny. It's like in Scream when she's like, on the phone and she's like, oh, it's always the same thing. They should run out the front door. Instead, they run up the stair, and exactly what she ends up doing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of okay. I guess the only other scene in the movie we really didn't talk about, if it's worth talking about, I think it is just the fact that Harry has, seemingly has no problem watching his daughter go out there to eat on Barbara and Ben. That's kind of a horrifying moment, really.
I think that was just more like him, just like it's not him not processing. That's not my daughter anymore. To him, it's like that's still my baby girl.
Right.
Like you could kind of see, like, okay, even though he's wrong in that instance, you can see like it makes sense. I mean, a lot of people will probably do that. They would be like, to them, it's like it's not clicking into their mind. It's like they're still like, that's my daughter. That's my little girl.
Well, you know what's too because he's not a good father.
No.
And in that moment, there could be a lot of regret restraining him from doing maybe what a good father might have been able, because a good father wouldn't have had those same regrets necessarily and would have been able to process and realize the moment for what it is. And as painful as it would have been, could have done the right thing. But he is hampered by the fact that he's not a good father.
Mm-hmm.
And he's I mean, I guess the whole point of all of that is there is a lot working underneath. I think when you give a movie like this a real opportunity, a chance to actually really think on, there's a lot going on. Some of it may be our own subjective interpretation of what we think we want to go on, but still it seems like there's a lot of thought into. And I think that's proved out by Tom's own admission of putting M. Celeste on the name on the house.
Yeah.
Got a lot of stuff working up in his head that he wants to kind of lay out there, even if it's not necessarily in your face, it's just there. I mean, I would have never picked up on the M. Celeste if it wasn't for listening to the pod on Astonishing Legends about it. Ooh. So as soon as I, I'm like, hey, wait, that's the Celeste. And then he talked about it. I'm like, okay, that's pretty ingenious there. That's.
I say the way I found out about was I listened to his commentary. He mentioned it on the commentary.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, so it's about to get now. Do we know who's going to release the new, his new
I am
restored?
Let me just take a look, see if I can find out.
Seems like, I wonder 21st still owns the rights to this film, or?
I say it's been with Sony all this time. I thought what Sony was going to do is do what they did with stuff like Insidious or Fright Night or something like that. We're going to put out the 4K and we'll put out in a Steelbook and all that kind of stuff. I don't know.
I know Columbia is the one who distributed the film.
Yeah.
The 21st Century Film, but Columbia distributed initially, but Umbrella had the rights at least long enough for them to release it on. And now
it would be nice though too, I hope that they're maybe thinking about getting up some new bonus features too while we're at it. Maybe some new interviews and stuff like that. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, well, apparently, it says here, someone, Heather Mazur, is recording a new feature for it. So we know at least we got a new like some sort of feature, right?
I would imagine the Criterion release of Night has a film historian commentary track.
Yeah.
Probably.
Be nice to get that same guy to do a reassessment of the remake, having done the original. That'd be incredible. Do you guys have the Criterion release of the original?
I do. It's in the box over here.
I was gonna get it, but I got like the Japanese blue, and I got that specific edition because they went out of their way to make sure that everyone got paid. That release, they made sure like George Romero got money for it, John Russo, all of them, so I gotta respect that, right? Yeah, I didn't see anything about who's gonna be putting it out, but
I got the signature edition of the original, but I feel pretty good about my purchase because I picked it up a little bit more money, but I picked it up at the George A. Romero Museum that was in Evans City, but now it's, I think, back in the mall.
Nice.
Yeah, so I picked it up there, and beautiful slip on it and everything, and that has commentary with him and him and someone's on the commentary track on there. That's a pretty decent, but I would like to get the Criterion though. That would be. I would imagine that's a good release.
I have several versions because like sometimes you buy like a DVD set or something like that. It can't help it; it's always included. But I know
8 of those.
I know you're not a fan of this, Rob, but I do have the DVD for the Riff Tracks version of Night of the Living Dead. And there's like one part that's really, really hysterically funny is like in the beginning of the movie when she's running away and she gets out of the car, she's locking the doors and all that stuff. And he goes, lucky for her, the zombie doesn't have the OnStar system. You could just call up and say, hello, I'm trying to eat this woman alive, but she locked herself in the car. Yes, sir, we have you at the cemetery. I'll open the car for you now.
That does make me think though, real quick though, that scene with Barbara when she's trapped in the car and she's got the autopsy zombie on the one side and the other one on the other, that is pretty intense, man, because the one just got this brick like, oh, I'm coming for you, right through the window. The other one's, he can't seem to figure out how to get in, but he's getting angry, and she's almost in a moment. She's almost in real trouble there if it was not for just releasing the brake and which was Savani's car apparently that he let the film have and watched it get destroyed.
Oh yeah, another joke is like when Dwayne Jones is like hammering the doors and all that kind of stuff. He's all like, "Ben, I hate to break it to you, but that door opens the other way." It's like trying to nail the door shut. I hate to break it to you, but that door opens the other way. Sorry, Rob. I know you're not a fan of that stuff.
I probably should be more of a. I probably have a couple on my shelf and I don't even know it, but one for sure I know is I'm almost sure I have it on my Astro Zombies.
Mm-hmm.
That from like the 60s. Yeah, I'm almost sure there's because I actually tried to listen to it because I was really having a hard time watching. I think I reviewed it for Body Bags and I was just really having a hard time watching. I'm like, well, maybe this will make it easier, and I think it did actually a little bit, but yeah, that's
just like they do that with some of these movies to try to make it a little bit more bearable, but the thing that is kind of cool though is like it helps. Like a lot, I've had people, get on to me and stuff like, how could you do that? It's like, yo, do you know how fucking hard it is to make a movie? Why don't you try to go out and do it and everything else? It's like, but the problem is like there are movies out there, they are such a trial to sit through. You know, they're so hard to sit, you know, you can't, I understand that it's hard to make a movie, but it's like, goddamn, you know, it's like, you look at some of these movies, look at something like Birdemic, and you actually sit there and say, somebody actually watched this and thought, that's a good movie. We did a great job. You know, it's just like, I mean, I know like filmmakers like Tarantino and like Joe Dante and stuff, they've come out against stuff like Riff Tracks and Mystery Science Theater. But it's like, but the thing is, though, is like it kind of helps because some of these movies end up finding their audience because of stuff. So that's
well, you know, it would be, and maybe there's one on there, maybe not, but you know, a good movie for that would be the Italian movie Devilfish.
They did a Mystery Science episode of it.
I wonder if it's on my Blu-ray of it.
That's how I actually watched that movie because, you know.
That's how I saw it the first.
Yeah, because I really don't like that.
That's one of those beautiful smorgasbord movies where you've got like freaking 28 writers on it. They're all bringing their own unique little, I got to have this story in here. Okay, well, we'll fit it in right here, you know. So you go from, you know. You know, and Sacchetti's one of the writers. I wish that movie would have just been left to him and he would have wrote the full script. Could have ended up being quite a good movie, but you know, you got your you know, got to have this, got to have that, got to have this, a little bit of this, got to have a little of this, and you know, and you know, ultimately it's not, you know, the worst thing in the world, but it's
like a Mystery Science Theater episode, you know, like the main girl, you know, she kind of, not much, but she kind of sort of bears a tiny resemblance to a young Daryl Hannah. So they keep making a joke about that. It's like, oh, it's Daryl Hannah and all that stuff. Oh, is she going to turn into a mermaid and all that stuff? And like, one part, the girl's like kissing the guy's cheeks, and one of them goes, oh, okay, I suppose I'll accept just a little bit of sex from you.
Well, it's the sort of thing, I mean, let's be honest. How many people would know the movie This Island Earth if it wasn't for Mystery Science Theater?
It's like, well, see, the thing is, it's like now people know the movie Manos, The Hands of Fate. It wasn't until Mystery Science Theater did their episode. Most people didn't even know that movie even existed.
No.
And then it's like now that movie's got a fan base, and Synapse did a Blu-ray of it and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, in a way, it's kind of cool that these movies kind of, or you know, stuff like that kind of helps these movies find their audience. You know, it get more. That's the same thing like with Weird Al. I know like a lot of people didn't like the fact that Weird Al spent all these years parodying songs and everything else. But then the thing is, a lot of people, so like, you know, like there are people out there who are like, you know what? I never would have listened to Coolio's Gangster Paradise if I hadn't heard Weird Al's Amish Paradise.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of nice that, you know, like it helps that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know what would help too, if I was just thinking, you know, all the work that not only that Joe Bob has done throughout his life and his love for cinema and the drive-in and everything else, but just of recent, all the work that he's poured into the Shudder series.
Yeah.
It would really be nice if you got, and it's not like we don't have 32 million new releases of the original Texas, but how awesome would it be if one of those releases, they were smart enough to get Joe Bob and say, you know, we understand this is like your movie. Why don't you do a commentary track for us, a real good, serious one, and just let him pour out all of his knowledge on that particular movie. And
I would love if they would do that more often.
I don't know why no one has, you know, I mean, I love it that boutique companies reach out to film historians and Troy Howarth and all these different people, you know, they get them to do it. And then even once in a while, you'll get a neat fan commentary like the Adam Green for Friday 4. You know, you get some of these things which are genius moves, I think, on the part of the releasing company to do. But Joe Bob's is someone I don't know why they haven't tapped into that yet. That seems like
I only have a handful of, you know, movies that have Joe Bob Briggs do a commentary on them. If you ever get a chance, if you can find it, get the version of I Spit on Your Grave, the Blu-ray or whatever that has his commentary on. I think you would be astounded at, how the case that he makes for that movie. And he's like, here's the thing. He's like, we're going to talk about why this movie is a legitimate work of art. And, he lays down all of his reasons for it and everything else. I think you'd be like, wow. You'd probably be like, I never even want to watch the movie. I just want, if I'm going to watch it, I'm going to watch it with his commentary from now on. It's just the
Is that just on the Blu-ray?
Yeah. Or the 4K, whatever.
Oh.
But, yeah, he did the one he did for Incredibly Strange Creatures. That one was pretty good and everything. And, but the thing is like, and he's not really, he does throw in some jokes and stuff like that, but he's very serious. And he's very knowledgeable. He'll talk about like, okay, here's this actor and this actor has been in this movie or that movie or whatever. He's taking it very seriously, but every once in a while he'll be like, okay, this is this person and they're, in their big filmography of only one role, and stuff. So he does throw in some jokes, but it's like, man, he's amazing. Oh God, I really wish they would reach out to him to do more commentaries on a lot of these.
I don't know. I mean, I love the advent of some of these releasing companies reaching out to very current, relevant podcasts who've done a lot of work. Like the Nashi Cast has gotten to do quite a bit of the Paul Nashi, some of those releases, and the Tombs of the Blind Dead, of course, and but then even like the Hysteria Continues, you find them on some of the '88 releases of some of the movies. So I mean, these groups, I think, is pretty cool. They're getting some relevance on commentary tracks, but you got somebody like Joe Bobs that is so influential, Monster Vision and just all the stuff that he has done. It just seems like, man, that would be a treasure trove of just movie knowledge to have him just sit there and give you an incredible commentary track. And I mean, he's basically done that for, his Shudder series. I mean, really, they're in miniature, all commentary tracks to these, movies. Why he doesn't actually end up on a legitimate, and that's my only regret not having Shudder anymore, is I missed that series.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the idea that they took his pieces and put them in their own separate release bin so that you didn't have to actually watch the 3-hour movie. You could just listen to the hour of him talking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which was pretty smart idea. I think Cannibal Holocaust is what instigated that move, which was smart because not everyone wants to sit through that, but a lot of people might want to hear what he has to say on it.
Yep.
So, all right, guys, you want to close this thing out?
Yeah.
Well, if y'all hung with us this long, just know at some point down the road, Tom's going to have, it's going to be authorizing a new, release, hopefully the definitive Tom Savini, as well as it can be definitive right now. New look at the film, and shoot, maybe by the time that comes out, maybe somewhere down the road, maybe we'll take a look at that and talk about that. So I love it. I love this movie, though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's definitely one of the best remakes.
It is. This is how you remake a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's simple.
Like that was the best part. Like a lot of people say, that's the best part is like, you're going down that same, Romero was smart when he wrote the script, you're going down that same path, but hey, let's take a couple of little twists and turns along the way, kind of make it a little bit more fresh and new, not just make the same movie over again, because we've seen that done before. God, that's pointless.
Very true.
So yeah.
Well, Lonnie, thanks for being on with us. Thanks for the idea. I think it was a nice little.
Hopefully you guys let me come back.
Oh, of course, anytime you want. So yeah, that was our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're still here at this point, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, all the podcast places. as well as this episode will be going up on the Body Bags channel. So hope you enjoy. Port them over whenever we can, sort of thing. So yeah, there you go. So see you later.
All right. Good
Have
night.
a good night, everybody.